Hi everyone, it's the EnglishSimmer here, and on Tuesday we actually got a patch update for The Sims 4. I kind of want to go through a couple of the main talking points. More specifically, I want to talk about console because, again, console players are running into issues. I feel as if they don't even test console or play on console before they actually bring the updates to console. Obviously, 3 months ago now, that's how long this has taken for them to look at people's feedbacks and kind of implement some changes when it comes to build mode, because that got royally screwed in the last update. People were having so many issues with it. People who have been playing the game on console since it came out were finding it so difficult to switch to the new ones. It felt badly optimized. It felt like they were just making it like PC, even when you were playing with controller, which just isn't the main point of console. Like, if you wanted to play with a keyboard and mouse, you can on console anyway, so why would you use a controller control to make it feel more like keyboard and mouse? It made absolutely no sense whatsoever. And so they have reverted a couple of those changes and people have been like, okay, this is good. But there are also some issues affecting live mode now as well, so it's not just only build mode anymore. Fun times. We've been busy reviewing all the feedback you've been providing regarding the controls on PlayStation and Xbox on The Sims 4, especially around the recent changes, and we made some important changes in this update. Honestly, the whole language of this update post was so confusing to me. Like, it took me forever to understand that the gallery was down and that we didn't know when it was going to be back up. First, based on your feedback, we have restored some previous functionality in build mode. Great, love that. Additional improvements to bring consistency between game modes and what controllers do. This is where the live mode issues start to arise. For example, in Create a Sim, the bumper buttons which switch between sims, but in live mode, you would have to use the triggers as the bumpers would adjust the game speed. Okay, so when we talk about bumpers and triggers, the bumpers are the ones at the front of the controller, the triggers are the ones at the back of the controller. I know, you probably know this, we are gamers. So these used to actually change the speed of the game within live mode, whereas in Create a Sim, these would actually switch between sims. These in live mode would switch between sims. And so now they've basically switched those around. Sorry if I got confused, but in live mode now, switching between sims is handled by the bumpers, so these front ones, and then the speed will actually be adjusted using the triggers at the back. Previously, tiles, doors, and windows were rotated by pressing triangle and Y button on Xbox. We've aligned these objects with other objects and they can now be rotated with the bumper buttons left and right. Okay, I feel like that makes sense. Windows and doors will use the triangle or Y button to now place multiple, whilst tiles will use the button to switch between single or full room modes. They also changed the biggest issue of build mode, which was the catalog actually not reducing itself, so it took up basically a quarter of the stream on console. And then they've also added a number of shortcuts. I'll actually leave a link to this post down below if you want to go check it out. I know I'm very briefly going over it, but let's actually check this out within the game. I will say I don't really personally use Freecam all that often. I am in the very privileged position though to be able to run a PC through my capture card. That's how I record all of these videos through my console. And basically, to take screenshots, I usually just take a video and I'll kind of just zoom in on a sim doing whatever I want them to do in whatever animation, and I'll basically just take a screenshot from the video that I recorded. However, obviously, I know a lot of console players, especially people who actually tell stories on Twitter, which we will get into, don't actually have that luxury, and therefore they use this free cam mode to take their screenshots. So if we head into there, you can actually zoom in on your sim by getting right up close to them. I'm actually doing this with my left joystick, so that's moving around, and then you can rotate using your right joystick. And let's say you've got your moment here that you want to take a screenshot of. Obviously, like I said, you can zoom in using your left joystick, but that actually distorts the sim a little bit and messes around with your camera angle. So sometimes you just want to zoom in, which you used to be able to do by pressing R2, and that would obviously just switch the sim, but it wouldn't change the camera or anything whilst you were in Freecam. However, if you press R2 now, it actually starts playing your game. And so these little zoom ins that you can do that you can't do with your left joystick because that just goes off camera angles. You can't do that because you will lose your perfect moment. The fact that that feels like it wasn't even thought about, the fact that no one flagged this like whilst they were making these changes, that is such an important thing to be able to do, to have the freedom to like zoom in just like little by little. But obviously it's speeding up the game now because that's what the triggers also do. So if you zoom in tiny little increments, it will speed it up to 3 speed and you lose the perfect moment. And then to zoom back out, you have to hit L2, which will then slow your game down and eventually pause it. So it will go through the 3 little stages of time within your game. Whereas you can see the plumb bob above the Sim's head. She's the playable one right now. So it used to be what R1 now is. So you could hit R1, it would switch to the other Sim, it would cycle through the Sims, but because you were in free cam mode, it didn't matter and your camera didn't automatically go over there and you still had the perfect moment. Whereas now my Sim has a phone in her face. We've lost the moment, and therefore storytellers, people who enjoy taking screenshots, console players are gonna miss out on their perfect Sim memories. Honestly, for console players, the best advice I have is like literally try and pause your game and get the shot set up just in like this mode as best as you can, really, and then obviously head into free cam mode and try and play around with it a little bit longer. Honestly, just try avoiding using zoom, which you shouldn't have to do, obviously, but that's the best tip I can really give. They also said they added this touching the touchpad to toggle the cursor, so you can actually do that, or you can just have free movement. I quite like that. I mean, it's quite simple to understand. You can also just use the D-pad to actually like quick toggle all of these, which is quite nice. And then remember, R1 and L1 are now to toggle the Sims, so don't get confused with that. And then L2 and R2 are to actually change your speed. Even as a person who doesn't really play console all that often, who only really got into it like during their trophy challenge, that already feels as if it's a little bit weird. Like, I didn't mind Create a Sim doing its own thing and then Live Mode doing another thing. I get that it is maybe easier for newer players to have standardization. However, I kind of wish that they had changed it within Create a Sim rather than Live Mode because of the issues that you now face. So let's hop in to build mode and actually see the changes over here. So as you can see, this is currently minimized. If we go to build mode and we grab ourselves, you can actually just go through all of these the way that you used to be able to. It doesn't just have the cursor on. So they've sort of reverted that back to the way that it used to be, which I know a lot of console players wanted. I, for one, am quite happy about that. It really felt like the addition of the cursor literally just felt like you were playing on PC, which is, again, just ridiculous when you're playing on console. So you can go through all of the swatches. Obviously, they have made it so that R1 and L1, you can actually rotate the object the way that you can rotate all the other objects when it comes to doors and windows, which is quite nice. Pressing back will just take you to the one that you were on, so you can just take off from where you left off, which is again really good. Let's actually go to objects, and then we'll choose this in this color, and then we will plop this down here, and then you can hit back, you can collapse that, collapse it again, and then you still have all of your real estate to be able to build and decorate the way that you want to. I am definitely seeing the issue that a lot of people pointed out last time I made a console video, is the fact that L2 actually undoes an action but also brings up the search bar, which is super annoying. Like, again, it feels like they've added double meanings to a button, and it's just like, why would that be both of those things? So if we go L2, that gets rid of the counter that I just placed, but it brings up the search functionality as well. So then I have to hit circle to get rid of the search functionality to notice that that has actually gone. Again, it just feels badly optimized, feels like it's untested, and I don't know why they're routing the same button twice over. Like, I can imagine undoing things and constantly having search pop up when you're trying to build like a really big house is probably one of the most infuriating things in the world. It seems like a small issue, but when you're playing this game every day, it then jumps from being a small issue to something that is just very, very aggravating every single time you play. Big shout shout out to Yorkshire Joe, who actually pointed out the issue of the zooming and then it 3-speeding. I will actually link Joe's channel down below. Joe is a storyteller on console. She has a YouTube channel. And so if you want to be the first to hear about console issues, I would definitely subscribe to Joe. She actually made this whole video also going through the new controls and giving a reaction to it. So I will link that down below as well. Again, it kind of goes into more depth than I personally feel like I ever could as someone who doesn't play console all that often. I really feel like they need at least a few people dedicated to console. I don't know if they do at the minute. This feels like it hasn't undergone testing by people who frequently play console, which is really, really unfortunate because again, it means console simmers probably gonna have to suffer for another like 3 months before this actually gets fixed. So console players, thank you so much for pointing this out. I will also leave a forums link down below. I know last time they changed the controls, they were taking feedback. Hopefully that is the case again this time. I'm fairly sure I've seen a petition flying around as well. So anything that I see that can hopefully bring a change to these updates, I will try and leave in the description below. If there are any other issues that you are running into, I would absolutely love to hear them. Please educate me when it comes to console. I'm happy to make these videos talking about the issues that console simmers are facing because I know how aggravating it is not to be able to play the game the way that you want to be able to play the game and when things are changed randomly. So thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope this video was helpful. I appreciate you all and I will speak to you all in my next one. Bye now.